Yo, what's up? What's good? You are now tuned in to the Keys and Seeds podcast, where we discuss music, mental health, and spirituality from the perspective of Ken, the artist, as well as Ken, the person behind the art. And of course, if you support the pod, then you two are also Ken. Be sure to join the conversation at Keys X Seeds Pod. And as always, knowledge and kindness is key. This is episode 5. And without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Welcome back to the pod, everyone. Halfway to 10 episodes. Not that 10 is like a magical number or anything, but like, I don't know, like as I'm still, trying to get more comfortable, as I'm still getting my feet wet, as I'm still trying to figure out, the technical stuff, making sure the sound is right, making sure the visuals are right, making sure I have my notes together. And you feel me? I'm not just on this bitch ranting, although, that is kind of like the nature of this pod. I'm going to be talking about myself, essentially. And, this is going to just be my safe space. So I don't think it's necessarily anything wrong with coming on here and ranting, but I would like for my content to be a whole lot more than that. I want you guys to actually be able to get something out of it. And I want to be, very clear and concise and to the point with, clear intentions of what I want to say when I get on this mic. So, I feel like sometimes, though, it's good to have, just more organic episodes versus feeling as if I have to plan out every episode. But, learning as I go. So, halfway to 10 episodes, I feel like by 10, I should be a whole lot more comfortable and, in my groove and everything. Even though, like, ironically, as I'm like recording, I'm not like completely sure of myself because I'm like in the moment. But whenever I go back and listen to these episodes, like even the episodes that I've recorded so far, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can, identify areas in which I feel like I could do better or improve. But like, if I have to be honest with myself, I'm like, I sound more comfortable than I thought I would sound. Like, damn, I sound good as fuck. You feel me? But yeah. So if you're tuning in visually, like I said, still trying to get the visuals and everything together and working. But so you feel me? I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this visually. But if you are tuning in visually, or if you are not tuning in visually, I will paint the picture for y'all. So on the table in front of me that this mic is on, the vinyl player that I have on the table, the album for this episode that I have on display is A Seat at the Table by Solange. And this motherfucker is still in the plastic. I've never opened this. I have a bunch of records in my collection that aren't opened, and I've been waiting until I get my own record player in my own space. This is like the studio slash, village record player. This isn't my own personal one. And you feel me? Like, I want to actually be able to experience opening up the vinyls and going through the pictures and whatnot when I actually have, my own studio space. You feel me? So, yeah, definitely a goal of mine when I get my own place. And you feel me? Like, it's mine and I can call it mine and I can, like, do whatever the fuck I want within that bitch. I definitely cannot wait to have my own studio space and my own crib. But yeah, so we have Miss Solange, A Seat at the Table, on display. One of my favorite albums. And she is, how can I say this? I love her visuals. Like, aesthetic wise, like Solange needs her flowers, for real, for real. But one of my favorite songs on this album, of course, Cranes in the Sky. Fubu. Definitely mad with Wayne. Don't touch my head. Da-da-da-da, uh, uh. Solange is that girl. But yeah, so I kind of was just like taking in the whole track list because it has been a minute since I've listened to this album. But I chose this album as the album for this episode because as I'm recording this episode, I know that I want to title it Say My Name, Say My Name. It's going to be titled Say My Name, Say My Name. Because I am going to be talking about my artist names. I'm going to be talking about how I came up with my first artist name, you know, why I chose that name, why I chose to eventually change that artist name, why I chose it to what I chose it to, and what my name currently is. And yeah, why I changed it, how I changed it. So yeah, I'm about to give you guys kind of like a short history lesson about, you feel me, my identity changes, my growth and identity as an artist as far as my names. And when I thought of Say My Name as the title for this episode, shout out to my Virgo sis Beyonce. I was like, okay, of course, for, you know, the vinyl, like, that I want to have on display for this episode, it got to make sense for what I'm talking about. And I'm like thinking about what the fuck I got in my collection for, you know, what vinyl I compare with this episode. And I'm like, I don't have anything Beyonce or Destiny's Child, but I do got Solange. So that is how Solange vinyl ended up on display for this episode. But as we're still on the subject of Solange, before getting into what this episode is actually about, Solange is that girl. Not only do y'all need to give her flowers, but y'all need to give her flowers separate from her being Beyonce's sister. Because although I kind of just explained to y'all how I came up with her being on display for today, you know, because it, you know, related, but it didn't. Aside from that, you know what I'm saying, I got to her through me first thinking about Beyonce. Aside from that, in general, like in music, put respect on Miss Solange name. Period. She's more than just Beyonce's sister. And I'm going to leave it at that. So, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, this is an episode that I didn't write down notes for. I'ma just freestyle this off the dome. I was gonna write notes for it, but I'm like, I feel like I could give you guys a pretty quick rundown of how I came up with my first artist name and how I ended up where I am now with my current artist name. So I'm like, yeah, that's the beauty about what I know I'm gonna be talking about on this pod. It's like, I think it's beneficial and it's smart to have notes so that I can make sure I'm not forgetting, you know, certain things. And so that, you know, obviously I'm coming on this mic with clear intentions of everything that I want to discuss. But then again, you feel me? I'm talking about my life. So it's not too much like thought and planning to put into certain episodes because it's like I'm quite literally just getting on here and talking to y'all. But as I'm also looking at myself through this camera, I have on American merch. This is kind of like an announcement for the end of the episode, but I'm saying it now at the beginning of the episode because I know not everybody finishes. I have on American merch. Very rare. If you still would like some American merch, I still have a few pieces that I am trying to get off of me. If I fuck with you, maybe for free, just holler at me. If not, a donation at the very least. I'm just trying to get this shit off my hands. I ain't really been still pushing old merch because, you know, American is my dead name. But yeah, so I got on my American merch, you feel me? It is still me, you feel me? It's just a past version of me. So I still be wearing my American merch. If you caught my merch, you can still wear it out. Folks can ask you who it is, and then you can be like, oh, this is an artist that I listen to that I fuck with, you know, da da da. This isn't her name anymore, but, you know, still, you feel me? Like, it's still a conversation starter. And then, two, because American is my dead name, this is OG merch. Y'all better get this rare shit while I still got it on my hands before Kendall is out of here. And then y'all scrambling trying to get some American shit. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I got some American merch still on hand for you guys to cop. Adjusting this mic because I be straining my goddamn back, child. Whew. Damn near might pick this motherfucker up and not sit on the table. But anywho, artist names. So, first of all, it's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time to finally get into my discography as an artist. I'm going to take y'all back all the way to the beginning and catch y'all up to now. Of course, as I'm releasing these episodes, I'm going to be releasing more music, and I plan to do an episode for each song as well as each project. So I imagine it being, you know, a while before I actually catch up to where I currently am with my artistry. But yeah, I'm going to take y'all back to the beginning. And then, of course, as I'm like catching y'all up to speed, y'all can learn more and more about me throughout the episode. So then once we are up to speed and I'm dropping current music, you feel me? Y'all already got background knowledge of who the kid is. You feel me? So very excited about that. So you can expect the next few / upcoming episodes to be deep dives into my discography. It might be some pauses and, you know, unrelated episodes in between those episodes, you know, here and there. But for the most part, definitely I'm looking forward to cranking out episodes about my discography from the beginning. So with that said, before actually getting into my discography, I thought that it would make sense first to give y'all like the background knowledge first. More specifically with, you know, how I chose my artist name. Because as I'm going to be getting into my music and I'm starting from the beginning, I think it's important to take this episode to speak about my names because I have changed my artist name. And there's people coming in onto, you know, my journey, following my journey at different times. So although a lot of people know me as my previous artist name and they've been following me up until now, I feel like it's important to catch up to speed the people who are now meeting me as my new / current artist name. You feel me? Like I got to take them back. You feel me? So as I'm explaining some of this is probably information that you already know if you've been following my journey up until this point. But again, with every episode, I hope that you guys at least learn one thing new about me. But also, too, if you aren't specifically tuned into my music, I will hope that you tune into my music through tuning into this podcast if you aren't a fan of my music. But in addition to me discussing my music, as I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into, you know, where I was mentally, having more general conversations about certain subjects within my music, it is my hope that with everything that I discussed on this pod is still able to relate to more than just the target audience of who are fans of my music, if that makes sense. So yeah, gonna be discussing my artist names and the importance of not being afraid to change your identity. So yeah. Alright, so boom. I'm like, how am I about to start this? So if we on episode 5 now. So I feel like you guys pretty much have an idea of like how I got into music. Like, how I got, for poetry, into music, da da da. But, very briefly for those who don't know. So I first got into music, or like my interest first was sparked with music through me growing up in church, singing in church, right? So I was always singing, always been a writer. You can go back and listen to previous episodes about me being a writer. Not going to spend too much time on that part. But music came back into play for me, I would say around high school. That's when I actually found myself becoming a fan of music. And from there, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm a fan of music and I sing and, I enjoy doing singing covers, I'm like, why not try and write my own music, right? So in high school is when I first started like writing songs, but they were more so R&B songs. I wasn't rapping then at that point because I, sing and I was doing poetry. I thought, let me try and write, an R&B song. But in high school is when I actually like discovered rap / hip hop, and I fell in love with it. And then eventually I put 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, okay, if I know that rapping is really just poetry to a beat, and I write poetry, and I'm writing these songs, like I don't feel like it would be that hard to write a rap. Because at first, like I said, I was just writing R&B songs. So eventually I started writing rap songs, but this wasn't until I got to college. And at this time, so like high school throughout college, I was writing songs, right? And pulling on my phone so I can like give y'all dates. So throughout this time, I'm, writing music, trying to write a rap, getting inspired by writing raps. Getting inspired by listening to other artists. And everything that I'm writing, I'm just like, I don't think this is good. Like, I just felt like everything that I was writing was just ass. I'm not gonna lie. But, eventually, I got the confidence to release something. And I am going to tell the rest of that story throughout the next upcoming episodes. But with that said, because this episode is about my artist names, once I got to that point where I'm like, okay, boom, I want to start dropping my music because I'm, slowly becoming more confident enough, to release something. I'm like, okay, I need an artist name. And I know that when choosing a artist name, I told myself that I wanted part of my real name and part of my real identity within it, right? So if you tuned into episode 1, if you, been listening up until this point, or, if you already know me, or if you don't know me, my real name is Kennedy. But a lot of people call me Ken for short. So when coming up with an artist name, I'm like, I know I want my artist name to either be Ken something or something Ken, right? And I'm the type of person, whenever I think of like an idea or something, and like I set, like I put my intentions out, you know, like I talked to God, like, okay, boom, God, I'm trying to come up with an artist name. I know that I wanted to have Ken something or something Ken. Like once I came up with that part of it, I left it alone. I'm the type of person, if I think of like an idea for something, I don't like thinking too long on it if I'm trying to continue developing it, because I feel like when I fixate on it too much or I meditate on it too much at one time, the development from that point forward kind of just feels forced. I feel like it's better for me to think of what all I have in mind, you know, at that current moment up until that point, and then walking away from it and allowing the rest of it to come to me, if that makes sense, right? So once I, you know, had it up in my mind where I'm like, okay, boom, I need an artist name. I know that I wanted to say, you know, Ken something or something Ken. Once I came up with that part, I was like, all right, cool. Went about my day, went about my week. Didn't think nothing else of it. Like I really wanted it to come to me. I didn't want to try and, you know, force a name. But I set that intention out there. And I think maybe like 2 or 3 days later, I remember I was in the bathroom of the resident hall that I was living in on campus at Ball State. This was Stu West. If you know, you know. I remember being in the bathroom with Stu West maybe like 2 or 3 days later, because that's where I was staying at the time. And the name American came to mind. But when the word American came to mind, it didn't automatically click in my name like, it didn't automatically click in my mind like, oh, that's my artist name. I'm just going about my business, literally in the restroom. And you know how like you in the restroom, it's like, okay, you doing what you got to do, but like you got a few seconds for your mind to like, you know, wander a little bit. I'm literally in a restroom, you know, handling my business, and American comes to mind. And sometimes I tend to be the person where I know like something random will come to mind, and I know that I didn't come up with that thought myself. Like it's just a thought that comes to me, but then like I just brush it off like, okay, that was random. I don't know what that was about. Like when it came to me, I didn't automatically know what it was. So I could have easily like, you know, not thought anything of it. Like, okay, I don't know why I just thought of that. Anyways, you feel me? Like sometimes like I brush, you know, certain thoughts off that are random versus like really sitting there and meditating on why something came to mind, you know? So in that moment, I felt like that was something that I kind of needed to like meditate on. I'm like, why did the name or, you know, word like American just randomly come to mind just now? And as I sat and like meditated on it, I visually saw the word American spelled with 3 Ks. And around that time, I was a big Pro Era fan. Still a Pro Era fan. I don't necessarily keep up with too many of the artists of Pro Era, but still a Pro Era fan. But yeah, I remember at that time I was a huge Pro Era fan. And at that time, Steez was one of my favorite members, and he had a mixtape called American Corruption that I was like listening to at the time. I don't think that was around the same time the actual tape came out, but I remember I was listening to that tape around that time. So once American came to mind and I'm like meditating on it more, I'm visually seeing American spelled with 3 Ks, and that instantly made me think of American Corruption. But I'm like, why did I just randomly think about this? So I'm meditating on it more, and like the light bulb just goes off, and I'm like, American, like Ken something or something Ken, American. Like even though it wasn't spelled the same, like I kind of just had that light bulb moment of like, that's my name. But it was like one of those weird, like, okay, I feel like I just came You know, I feel like that thought just came to me as like my name. And I was fucking with it. I was like, ooh, that's hard. That's different. Like, I was excited, but at the same time, like, that excitement was kind of short-lived. Because I'm like, American is a very, like, out there name, especially with 3 Ks, right? So, like, literally, as I'm first thinking of this name, that's one of the first thoughts I have. I'm like, okay, that's hard. That's different. I don't want no name like everybody else. At the same time, I was like, maybe that's a little too different though, you know? Because in that moment, I already was like seeing ahead in a way. I'm like, I feel like the 3 Ks is going to be controversial. I feel like I'm going to get, you know, mixed responses like, oh, why she got KKK in her name? Like I saw all of that when that name first came to me, right? So I was just like, damn, like, And then too, you feel me? Like, I'm a woman. So I'm like, American, like, I don't know. Like, it was just something very just like harsh about it. I'm just like, do I want that to be my name? But at the same time, I was like, that shit hard. That shit different. And it came to my mind for a reason. So like, I couldn't let it go. And I think I meditated on it for maybe like 2-3 days after that. And I was like still stuck with that name. I was just like, I didn't come up with that name. Like, I didn't choose that name or go with that name because I'm like, I can't think of anything else. But like, I was still attached to this name in a way where I'm like, okay, even though I feel like it's going to get mixed reviews and not everybody is going to understand the 3 Ks or, you know, whatever the fuck, I'm just like, one, not only is it hard and it's different, nobody else is going to have a name like this. But I'm like, fuck it. I feel like the fact that it is going to be controversial is low-key you feel me? Like, it might be a good thing. You feel me? Like, I saw my name being a conversation starter. I saw my name, you know, standing out on flyers. I saw my name, you know, being a name on a flyer where somebody, you know, will see my name and not even know what to expect. And I like that. And I saw my name being a name where I feel like if a motherfucker really curious, they gonna tune in just off the name. Like, that's different. Like, what is this about? Who is this? You know? So I was like, you know, me being me, already being an opinionated person, I don't really give a fuck how other people, you know, think or feel. I know how I think and I feel. And if it don't align with what other people think or feel, I don't give a fuck. Because I take pride in having my own mind and thinking for myself, right? So I'm like, fuck it. American is my name. Whoever don't like it can suck my dick. Respectfully. I thought that shit was hard. I thought that shit was different. It still had part of my real name within it, Ken. And like I said, like, I knew it was going to be a conversation starter. And as a new artist, you feel me? Like, why wouldn't you want people talking about you? Right? So I'm like, you know, whether it's good or bad, motherfuckers is talking. But I'm like, I know why I chose the name American. It was a statement. And like I said, me already being the opinionated, you know, person that I am, I'm like, I really stand behind like the history and like the meaning behind why America started to be spelled with 3 Ks. You feel me? Like, just like, even though I'm not a big political person, like, I have very strong views and opinions on the fact that I feel like although slavery is over, like, we still in that shit. You feel me? Like, just look around us. Like, the state of this country, like, although things have changed, shit has not really changed. Niggas have just became more clever with how they rebrand shit. Ironically, no pun intended, rebranding. But yeah, so I'm like, yeah, American is a statement. Like, 10 toes, I'm standing on this name. But I'm like, I think it would be even more dope. I think what would be even more dope is if I take the 3Ks and I flip them to make the 3Ks mean something different, something totally unique and personal to my brand, right? So after that, I'm like, all right, cool. I remember writing down a list of words that start with the letter K. And ironically, this makes me think of the episode before this where I'm meditating on a list that I made of words that start with the letter P. But so yeah, as I knew that American was gonna be my name, and I'm like, I want to flip the 3Ks and make it, something positive and, personal to my brand. I'm like brainstorming, different words that start with K. Literally Googling, you feel me, like words that start with K and shit. And of course, you feel me, like it was like random ass like words like kiwi and shit. But like, I'm like looking at these words like, okay, what are like some strong words that I really feel led to, that I feel like could fit together like into like one phrase, like 3Ks in particular that could fit into like a phrase or a slogan within my name, right? So like that was my thought process. But again, because I had so many names, so many words on that list, and I didn't want to force it and like try and like hurry up and choose 3Ks. Like I put that intention out there, made the list, walked away from it. Kept going back to it, maybe like, each day after that, reflecting on the words, but still was trying to just allow the 3 words come to me. And again, I think maybe like a few days after that, it wasn't very long. I started being drawn to knowledge, kindness, and key. Like knowledge and kindness were like 2 words that were like really sticking out to me. I'm like, knowledge, like, okay, boom, like that's a word that fits me. Like I feel like I have a lot of knowledge to share. I take a lot of pride in, my brain, my thoughts, the fact that, I think for myself. Obviously as a college student, I'm just like, I don't know. Knowledge was just one of those words that jumped out to me. Kindness jumped out to me because I'm like, I know my heart. I know how I love and how I care for others. And I know the impact that I would want to, make through my music, through my art, through me having a platform. So kindness was something that really struck out to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm big on people, big on community. You know what I'm saying? Big on showing that energy to people regardless. You feel me? And I feel like key was kind of just that word that like tied it together. I don't know how the phrase knowledge and kindness is key like came to me, but like it kind of just like formed. I don't know. And I was just like, if I was like uneasy or, like, oh, this shit hard, but I don't know, like, man, after I came up with that phrase, I said, yeah, bitch, this shit hard. This my name. I don't give a fuck who don't like it, bitch. This is me. Unapologetic. This is my brand. And just how organically that shit came together, I was just like, yeah, this is my brand. I'm standing on it. But like I said before, still looking ahead, I'm like, okay, even though this is my brand and I'm standing on it 10 toes, you feel me? I am still looking ahead like, okay, when I go out and I introduce myself or, I get into certain rooms or, I'm at an award show or, You know what I'm saying? Like, I still was picturing myself in certain situations where I'm like, okay, like, is American really like an appropriate name for real? And I ain't gonna lie, when I chose American as my name, I'm like, realistically, if I'm trying to take my music to the biggest heights or as far as I can take it, I don't think American is gonna allow me to, fit into every room. And not saying that I'm trying to dumb myself down or like fit into every room, because I know not every room is for me and not every seat at every table is for me. And I know that I can very well build my own table. I still was just like, yeah, like, I don't think, like, from a marketing perspective, I don't think it would be smart to stubbornly stand 10 toes on American. Like, I feel like at some point I would have to change my name. And this is all before I even like announced my artist name, before I released a song. Like, this was literally my thought process as I was coming up with my artist name. Like, I saw everything. Not everything, but I took into account a lot, and I saw ahead like possible things that I would like run into, and I ran into that shit. You feel me? So like, even when I first was coming up with my first artist name, I was like, I know that at some point I'm going to change it. But as of right now though, as I'm a new artist still trying to get my foot in the game, and like, this is what the fuck I feel strongly about, I'm standing 10 toes on this being my brand currently. And I know that as I grow as a person and as I grow as an artist, I can easily change my name. No big deal. Especially as I'm still an underground artist, then not the whole world knows. So like, that was my whole thought process. I'm like, I knew at some point I was going to change my name. But when coming up with my artist name, I was like, nah, this is my name. This is my brand. I'm standing on it 10 toes. If you don't like it, suck my dick. You feel me? And once I came out with that artist name, sure enough, I got mixed reviews. Some people was like, what the fuck? Like, that's a very different ass name. Like, why would you choose that as your name? Like everything that I saw happening, like, literally played out. First announced my artist name. Not everybody was fucking with it. Not everybody was rocking with it. Not everybody understood it. But it wasn't for them. I confidently knew that whoever was meant to align with my brand and, fuck with my music, I confidently knew that they were going to tune in. So I'm like, okay, if you don't fuck with me or, my music just off the strength of a name that has a positive meaning behind it, knowledge and kindness is key, and I'm making a statement, okay, cool. I'm not for you. That's fine. And with that said, although I had those people that wasn't fucking with it and, weren't aligned, I had people that were aligned. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people who do support my brand, who do understand my name. The people who was like, oh, you shouldn't have changed it, Like, there's people who genuinely fuck with me on some, I don't give a fuck what the fuck your name is. Bitch, your shit hard. Like, you feel me? And like, people who personally know me, they like, we know who you are as a person. Like, we knew what your intentions were behind it. We're genuinely a fan of your art. You feel me? Like, the people that fucked with me. And when I say like, in the local scene of my city, and like even outside of my city, just like on some internet shit, like when I say like a lot of people in real life was fucking with me, like out the gate, like I never really had a issue for real with my artist name. Like, people were fucking with me. People were loving me. People was loving my music. I just got to the point personally where I'm like, okay, it's time to change my artist name, because as I started to grow as a person and I wanted my sound to grow and I wanted to take my sound into a different direction and I wanted to mature with my music, I naturally just started to feel disconnected from the name American. Not only that, but the more I thought about that name, I'm like, that name has more of a like political, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, like, it has more of a political like aura or vibe around it. Like, if you weren't familiar with my music just off of my name, you would think that I'm like talking about like some super strong, like politically charged, shit. And that's not my music at all. So like I feel like too, it kind of confused people. And also too, like I said, when I first came up with that name and it first, came to mind, I still was like, it's still kind of like harsh as a woman. And I know that as I'm growing as a person, but as a woman specifically with my art, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I need a name that, reflects the growth and, the change that's happening within me, not only, as a person and, as a woman, but how that relates to my art. And I want to say it was something else. Of course, along the lines, different people kind of like triggered the whole like, oh, why the fuck is that your name? And da 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 da. And like I said, I knew that was expected, but I felt like it was slowly like growing. And not that I felt pressured to change my name, but I will say I did get to a point where I kind of was just tired of explaining myself to people. Like, okay, yeah, even though it's a conversation starter, I'm like, I'm kind of tired of explaining why my name is my name. Like, I feel like it kind of took away from the actual music at a certain point. Because I'm like, I don't want to feel like my name is bigger than my music. Or like, you feel me? Like, everybody is so fixated on my fucking name. And you feel me? Like, the music is not at the forefront. And like I said, you feel me? Like, I felt like the name itself wasn't really matching with the brand and the type of music I was making. And yeah, but not only did I kind of just get tired of explaining my name to people, but like as I'm like performing and, doing certain shows and I'm like looking out into the crowd, like a lot of, people in the crowd sometimes were white. And, as a Black artist with the name American, you feel me? Like at first I kind of was just like, I don't give a fuck who I make uncomfortable. Like, yeah, we're going to sit here and, meditate on why I spelled America with 3 Ks. You feel me? Like, so like trying to make white people comfortable was never really on my mind. Like, I don't give a fuck if you're, uncomfortable about my name. But like, that's not even a point that I wanted to make. Because even like the white people that, came across, my music, and I hope, nobody's, offended or think I'm trying to be funny by just saying white people. But yeah, like a lot of white people fucked with my music. Like they understood the name. Like it was like the Black people who was like, she a coon, like low key, it was surprisingly a lot of white people that fucked with my music for real. But I would just say for me personally, as a Black artist, connecting with white people specifically in performing and going up on stage and introducing myself as American to like a crowd full of white people, it did start to become uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't know, like I still felt like it was like this disconnect. And I'm all about community. You feel me? Like we all know, you feel me, what the KKK is. You know what I'm saying? We all know what the original, 3K stand for. Like, we know why America is real with 3Ks. Like, okay, yes. But, like, at the end of the day, though, I really am just about community. And I was recognizing not only how that name was, like, holding me back in different ways, but it also, too, was just, like, causing a disconnect within myself, but also, like, other people. And it's like at the end of the day, although I'm still staying true to myself and I'm not changing who I am for anybody, at the end of the day, as an artist who desires fans and who desires support and who desires to grow, I knew that the best decision for me was to rebrand. So like I said, eventually I kind of just got tired of it myself, didn't feel as connected to it anymore. But at the end of the day, too, it's like, although I'm making music for myself, I am making music for other people. And if my name is something that's really holding me back from, expanding my reach and, keeping people iffy and, you know what I'm saying? Like, why not change it? I knew when I first came up with this name that I was going to eventually change it anyways. So, not saying that I purposely changed my name once moving out here to Atlanta because nobody knows who I am. But before moving out here was the pandemic year. And like that whole period of me going through college, graduating college, experiencing the pandemic, like, going through like different, milestones and like tower moments of my life. Like that whole like period of like 2020 up until now, and I've said it before, I keep mentioning it. That whole like time period of me was just me just like shedding layers of myself and just growing and like really figuring out who I am and like getting more clear of my identity. And like I said, I always knew from jump that I was going to eventually change my name. But around that time too, because so much was going on within my life, I'm like, I can't even like give to my music and my art as much as I would like to. So like I kind of was just pulling back from everything to begin with. And I feel like during that time, I had kind of just reached a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like now is the time for me to, reinvent myself. And with me moving out here to Atlanta, I'm like, now more than before is the perfect time for me to go ahead and make that move. So it wasn't I'm about to move to Atlanta and change my name now because nobody out here knows me. But that was kind of like the motivating factor. Like I knew before moving out here that I wanted to change my name, and I knew what my now current artist name, I knew what that was going to be before even coming out here. And that was something that I sat on for like at least a year before moving out here. But yeah, so that's how I came up with American and how I came to the conclusion of knowing that I wanted to change my name. And now with that said, my new artist name is Kyndl, KYNDL. Back on their ass, they're giving these niggas help. But yeah, how did I come up with Kyndl? Like I said, I came up with this name. I didn't come up with this name, first of all. Let me say that. But this name came up with, I believe, 2021? No, I moved out here 2021. I don't know. I feel like since the pandemic, y'all, like, timelines have became so fucking blurred, dog. Like, I think this was 2021. This was 2021. I think 2020, I knew I wanted to change my name, but I didn't come up with the new artist name until 2021. And I remember because the person who I had this conversation with and who helped me come up with my name, because I had a conversation with someone about I wanted to change my artist name, and they helped me come up with my name. I remember we had this conversation closer towards the time where I knew I was going to be moving out here. And yeah, so yeah, I remember that conversation was in 2021 now. But yeah, so shout out to Jay Stokes, formerly known as Jeremiah Stokes, another artist who has gone through a rebrand. Shout out to Stokes. He's an artist in the city. Very dope, very talented artist. Yeah, so Stokes, do I remember how I met you? I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But Stokes is the homie. Been, fucking with Stokes, for a good minute. I don't remember how long. But long story short, Stokes is the homie. And on this particular day that we ended up chopping it up, us linking that day was not even planned. I linked up with that nigga that particular day because we both had a studio session with Casper. So shout out to Casper Mercy, also another artist in the city. I want to say you changed your name too. Don't quote me. I think that's still bro name. I think Casper, you said something about wanting to change something. Maybe it was your sound. I don't remember. But shout out to Casper. I remember I met Casper through Naptown Revival, which was /is. I'm not sure if they even still have them. But and shout out to Sproof. And I keep like going back and back and back. But basically, long story short, I ended up running into Stokes because on that particular day, I ended up having a conversation with Stokes, and the topic of me wanting to change my artist name came up. That day, I had a studio session with Casper. And Casper is someone who I met through Naptown Revival, and the organizer of that is Sproof, connecting that back. And Naptown Revival was a competition, platform. It was a platform for artists, but it was like competing, for a prize of, free studio time and shit. So that's how I met Casper. Also, you feel me, the homie. So long story short, I had a studio session with Casper that day, and Stokes ended up pulling up to Casper's spot too. And after we left from Casper's spot, me and Stokes talked about getting something to eat. And I'm noticing what time it is. I'm trying to wrap this up. I think I'm doing good though, as far as like, time. Episode 3 was 2 hours. Wanted to make it more than one part, but I'm like, episode 4 is already recorded, so hell nah. But in general, I imagine these episodes being, about an hour long, or, broken up into 2 parts. But yeah, I'm actually about to wrap this up. So me and Stokes left Casper's crib, and we was talking about getting something to eat, and he mentioned Ethiopian food. He was like, have you ever had Ethiopian food? And I'm like, nah. And he was like, all right, I'm about to put you onto a spot. That's where we about to go eat. So I'm like, okay, cool. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I was kind of nervous because I'm like, I'm gonna be shitty as fuck if I spend my money to go out to lunch with you, knowing I'm hungry as fuck and I ain't ate all day, and I don't like this fucking food. And we pulled up. I can't remember if it was on him or not. I think I ended up paying for it because I ended up liking it. But he was like, if you don't like it, like, I got you. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, you're not going to waste your money. And, like, Stokes is good people like that. So he's like, but you going to like it, though. So I'm like, all right. So we pull up to this Ethiopian spot, and food's fire. Still to this day, like, Ethiopian food is one of my favorite foods now because of Stokes. But yeah, so me and Stokes, we went to this Ethiopian spot. Like I said, food was fire. And it was my first time ever having Ethiopian food. But as we, having a conversation, like catching up with each other, I don't remember how it came up in conversation, but I had mentioned to him that I wanted to change my artist name. And I don't know, like, I feel like Stokes is just one of those people who I feel like I can have really, like, good connection and, like, conversation with, like, on the spiritual tip. Like, I don't know, like, we just be here. So, like, when I told him that, like, I feel like I kind of just was like, I don't know, like comfortable to like bring that topic to him. Like, I don't know, maybe like my spirit felt like he was the person who I needed to talk to about it. I don't know. But yeah, so like when I came up with the thought of me wanting to change my artist name or whatnot, like I didn't really tell nobody. So I'm like, of course, you feel me? Me changing my artist name is still a big move. Like a lot of people know me, you know, for the artist name that I have. Like, you know, I've already, you know, made a lot of like, you know, progress with this name. Like I don't want to feel like I'm abandoning all of that just to like come out of nowhere and be like, oh, I'm changing my name. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when I stood so strongly on American. So like, it was kind of just a thought that I was like keeping to myself at the time. But long story short, like I said, Stokes is the homie. He gives very great advice in general, but also too just like on a music tip because he's an artist as well, and you know just on a spiritual tip. You know, I felt comfortable bringing it up in conversation with him. Like, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, changing my artist name, but you know, like, you know, everything that I just said. And I remember both kind of just like smirked and was like, I saw it coming, you know, like I've been recognizing your growth. You know, I feel like, you know, we all kind of, you know, speculated or wondered if you were still gonna stand, you know, 10 toes on that, or if you were gonna, you know, switch it up. He's like, but, you know, I commend the fact that you aren't, you know, afraid to make a change. He's like, you know, it sounds like you kind of fearing that, but like you came to that thought and you had that idea because you know that that's the move that you need to make. And he's like, I know that, you know, you're going to do what's best for you at the end of the day. But him just like knowing like my motivation behind wanting to change my name, not because I necessarily felt pressured or I was trying to like conform to, you know, who somebody else wanted me to be, but like just recognizing the fact that I had truly grown. You know, like he respected it. And he was like, you know, I kind of just like already sensed that, you know, coming from you, you feel me? But like, you know, I support whatever you do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to take away, you know, from your music. You know, you're still, you know, very talented, you know, like, you know, I fuck with it. I support it. Right. And, you know, the whole conversation just was just very comforting. Like, yes, like I feel seen, I feel heard. Like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, so, you know, what are you thinking about as far as, you know, changing your name? And at that time, I didn't know what I was going to change it to. I was just like, I just know I want to change my name from American. I had no clue what the fuck I wanted to change it from. And I was like, I would like to still have part of my identity within it, but, you know, if, you know, something new comes to me and that's the name, and it, you feel me, don't got shit to do with my real name, then fuck it, you feel me, that's the name. So as we're sitting there having a conversation, this man starts throwing out like different names and shit. Like, I remember like one of the names he came up with was Class with a K. And like, it was just certain shit where I was just like, we don't gotta hold on to the K shit. We don't gotta hold on to the Ken. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like in general, a lot of the names just was like, all right, Stokes, nah. You feel me? Like, I fuck with the thought behind it, but like, nah, that ain't the name. And I felt like as he was like trying to throw different names out there, whole time, this is my first time ever mentioning it in conversation. I'm like, dude, we don't gotta come up with a name right here, right now. Because like I said, I'm the type of person, I'm like, I'd rather just not force shit. Like, I'd rather just let that shit come to me. But he was like, nah, like, I don't know, like, we don't gotta force it and come up with a name right here, right now. But like, you know, why not, you know, think about it. So I'm like, okay. So he's still throwing out names. And eventually he says Kendall. And, you know, every name that he had said up until that point, I was just like, nah. Nah. You feel me? Like, tried to think about it, but I was just like, you feel me? If it's not it, it's not it. And I remember he had said Kendall. And when he said Kendall, like, I kind of just paused. And Like my mind was kind of just moving like a mile a minute. Like it went more than one way. Like as soon as I heard Kindle, I thought of like the Amazon Kindle that you read books on. I thought about the fact that Kindle sounds like it could be my real name if you don't know who I am, but it's also a unisex name, and I love unisex names. I thought about rekindle as in like a flame, like a fire. And I don't know, like as soon as he said Kindle, like I was just like, like I didn't say yes to it, I didn't say no to it. But I was like aesthetically, like looking at it, like how I would spell it, like instead of spelling it like Kindle, I'm like, we can swap out the I for a Y and then you feel me, like take the E out. Like, I don't know, like I'm the type of person, like even when I do think of a name, like I have to like visually see it, like write it out, you know? And Kindle, like, I don't know, like it just had a ring to it. Like I was like, that's cute. And then like how I would spell it, like it's cute, it's feminine. You still kind of don't really know what type of music that I make based off of my name. But at the same time, if you see a female artist named Kendall, you probably would assume she sing. And I do sing, even though I rap as well. But I know I've been wanting to take a more melodic approach with my music, and I do want to sing more. I'm like, okay. Like I feel like it's supporting the direction that I'm trying to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I was just fucking with Kindle heavy. And like I said, when I thought of the word Kindle, I instantly thought of the like the Amazon tablet, the Kindle Fire that you read books on. And already my slogan is knowledge and kindness is key. So like, you know, books, knowledge, like, I don't know. I was just like fucking with it. I'm like, that shit's cute. And so after he said it, and I kind of just like found myself like slowly getting excited about it, I'm like, okay, let me calm down. Cause I was like, okay, that's cute. I like it. But I'm like, I know how I am. Like I can get excited about something in a moment. And then like sometime after that, I'll be like, what the fuck? That shit was stupid. Like I'll be like super excited about something or like have an idea for something and like be ready to go hard for that shit. And then just like allow some time to pass and like I don't still feel the same way. Like my energy is very funny like that sometimes. So once I got excited about that, I'm like, let me like sleep on it and see like how I'm still feeling once some time has passed, you know? But I feel like days after that, I still was just sticking with Kindle. And like I said, I feel like it was very cute, very, you know, short and sweet, aesthetically, very feminine. It still has part of my real identity within it. So Ken, you know, DL, but also too, even though I don't have a relationship with him, DL is the initials of my dad. So it was like a lot of thought that went into it where I was just like, okay, yeah, this is the new identity. I'm fucking with it. So shout out to Stokes. He sparked that. He, you feel me? Lit that fire. You feel me? Helped, you know, rekindle the brand. But yeah, that is how I came up with my artist names. I hope you guys learned something new about me. And with that said, never be afraid to make an identity switch, especially if you know that who you are at the core is still within every change that you make. Never feel as if you have to be married to a particular version of yourself. Change is inevitable. Allow yourself to grow. Don't feel as if you have to be married to a particular calling or purpose or thing that people know you as. You can switch that shit up today, tomorrow. Don't let anything hold you back. especially if it's your growth as a person. If you're growing, if your mind growing, if you're growing mentally, if you're growing spiritually, if you're growing as an artist, however that change wants to manifest outwardly, allow that shit to happen. Trust the process. And like I said, it was scary making the switch, feeling as if I was going to abandon all the progress that I had made as American. But like I said, my biggest goal is to be in alignment with who I truly am and who God wants me to be. And like I said, as I'm continuing to grow and, shed layers of myself, I'm like, I can continue to reinvent myself as many times as I want to, as long as I know that with every change that I'm making, it's truly me. And it's a change that I'm making for myself, not because I'm making it for somebody else. So I have zero regrets. I love the fact that, although it was fear behind the decision, I still took that leap and I made that decision. And as I'm continuously growing as a person, I can confidently stand on the brand of Kendall, because Rekindle is an extension of that. That's my @ name on everything. So sometimes people confuse my artist name for Rekindle, and it's not. So also to clear that up, although my @ names are Rekindle, REKYNDL, my artist name is just Kendall. My @ name is Rekindle because it's me rekindling my brand. You feel me? You get it? But yeah, too, I'm always gonna be relighting the fire on my path. I'm gonna continue to grow and evolve as a person, just like how I'm doing this podcast right now. A lot of people might know me as an artist, but y'all now about to know me as a podcaster / content creator. And I'm excited to continue growing out loud and in front of everyone. And yeah, before wrapping up this episode though, I do want to mention that there are 2 songs out that kind of speak to my artist name specifically. I dropped a song called Rebranding under the name American, which was a response that I made to people telling me that I was rebranding the KKK and that I should change my name. And those comments was sparked from a moment that came about on a show on Netflix that I was on. And yeah, we're going to eventually get into that as well. But I dropped a song called Rebranding that was a response to all of that craziness that I was getting on the internet after that shit aired. And I recently dropped a song called Rekindle about me changing the artist name that I said that I wasn't going to change. But, not being stubborn to growth, being obedient. But yeah, so make sure you guys go listen to Rebranding and Rekindle. Each song is under each artist name respectively. And yeah, also too, at the time of this recording, so when I announced my name change, it was February 22nd, 2022. And you guys can go on my Instagram or, Twitter or whatever and see the official statement that I made for it. And I do feel like you guys should go read that. I'm not going to recite it. I feel like I should, but I'm not going to just for the sake of time. You guys can go read that. But also too, at the time of this recording, February 22nd is coming up. And obviously that will make 1 year since I changed my artist name. And, not only is that, obviously, a milestone, but I think it's just so awesome that as I'm coming up on a year later, I'm reinventing myself again with starting this podcast. And not only that, but I told myself that I want to record episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays. And February 22nd is on a Wednesday. So I would be recording on a Wednesday. I said would and not will, because I won't be able to record that specific Wednesday because I will be attending a live show for a podcast that I'm a fan of. And like, I just love like how layered that is. Like, I don't know, like it's like confirmation for me, you know? And what also has been confirmation for me is the fact that like, although I've told like a few people in my close circle that, you know, I'm starting a podcast and, you know, like I wanted to keep it to myself and, you know, not announce it until obviously I'm announcing it. And obviously the cat is out the bag now by the time you guys are listening to this. But at the time of this recording, I have not released anything yet. And I just think it's so cool too that what has also been confirmation for me is the fact that like outside of the people who I've been personally telling, like even the people in my life who I have personally told, like there's been a lot of people like telling me or like mentioning like, have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Or like telling me like, you should really start a podcast. Like people close to me, people not that close to me, like just people who I don't really know that well, but like I'm able to just have, you know, a good conversation with. Like random people have been confirming for me like, you should start a podcast. Like, or, you know, have you ever thought about starting one? And it's even more crazy when like I tell people like really, really close to me, and they're just like, that makes so much sense. Like that's so on brand for you. Like, yes, dude. Like I would tune the fuck in. Like, yes, like do that. Like it's just been so like confirming and just reassuring for me. And I'm just like, I love it. But with that said, 111 on the clock. It is at 1:11 on my timer as far as the timing of this episode, minus the intro. And with that said, thank you guys for tuning in for yet another episode. Like I said, we about to get into some things. Be sure to stream my music on all streaming platforms, but also be sure to purchase it at Kindle Music.bandcamp.com. All the American releases up until now is on there all in one spot. And yeah, this has been episode 5. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, get you some rare American merch that's gonna mean something. It's gonna be worth a whole lot more here soon. So I would advise y'all to, you feel me, get this shit off my hands while you can, you feel me? But yeah, fuck with me as far as the merch, and be sure to follow the pod at Keys X Seeds POD. I'm out.